Could you please take your seats as we are expecting the leadership to enter the room now. And on their arrival, could you please rise? But they have not arrived yet. Okay. Ngiyabingelela ngini nonke enkhona ngaphakathi. Welcome to this auspicious gathering of women and progressive men. All men who are here are very progressive indeed, because they've come over and support us as women during the Women's Month. Basazo account or HOD, we are actually expecting them to have brought their wives. Each one of them will have to introduce. Oh, could we please rise? The Premier of the province of KwaZulu-Natal, Premier Nomsa Dubengobe, is in the room. Minister Lindiwe Zulu is also here. The ambassadors are here. Wow. Our leadership is here. Okay, thank you very much, Royal Premier. And thank you very much to all of you. May we now, is there a DJ who's actually going to allow us to render the national anthem? Could you please rise for the national anthem? Agnes? Okay, let's wait for the minister. Let's wait for the minister. All right. Kancane nje DJ ungabudlala lezo stances. We are in that mood, dancing mood, celebratory mood as women. All right. Thank you for with due respect, Minister Zosthola Pagat, I think she's still engaging the media. Oh, there she is. There she is. Let's welcome her with a big round of applause. Minister Lindiwe Zulu is in the house. Thank you, Minister. You are most welcome. You are most welcome, Honorable Minister. Okay, we are now ready for the national anthem. DJ. Thank you so much. You may take your seats. Let me start off by acknowledging the presence of our Premier, the Premier of the province of KwaZulu-Natal, Honorable Premier Nomusa Dube. Let me also acknowledge the presence of our Minister, who is the acting Minister in the Presidency, Minister for Women, Youth and People with Disabilities, Minister Lindiwe Zulu, the MEC for DALRA, the Department of Agriculture, Rural Development and Land Affairs, MEC Zoma Sholos. I have not yet received the list of all the guests who are here, but I know Councillor Nolbabalo Zondi is representing eThekwini Metro. We are most welcome, Sisi. Our ambassadors, all women, progressive men who are here, our HODs, the DG, from the Ministry and the Presidency of Women, People with Disabilities, the DG is also here. Let me welcome all of you to this very auspicious occasion in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, whereby we will be very ready during this important month to celebrate ourselves as women. We're celebrating ourselves, our achievements. We are celebrating the pieces of legislation that have been promulgated in our favor as women in the Republic of South Africa. We are celebrating the women who are deployed in very, very strategic positions, like our first premier, who is a woman in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. We are celebrating lonely up there, but we are celebrating them. We're celebrating women in the media space. It's very, very important for us to acknowledge them and also celebrate them. We are very, very proud of you, proud of all of you. Even those women who are residing women need to be celebrated because they are producing food for us, so that is why we are here today. And our pride goes to that level whereby we are saying in Africa, maybe throughout the world, we are the only country that celebrates the Women's Day, August 9, as the Women's Day. We really, really need to celebrate that. Of course, our program is graced by very, very important people. One of those people is our minister, as I've already mentioned, who will be presenting the keynote address on behalf of Minister CCC Tolashe. And let me, at this moment, invite Councillor Zondi from eThekwini Metro to welcome us. Amabhantshi asaqokiwe until Councillor Nolubabalo tells us to take them off because she is our host. Thank you so much. Over to you, sis.
Good morning, Sanibon, Program Director, Nomangamboni, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, KwaZulu-Natal Premier, Honorable Premier, Comrade Nomusa Dube Ncube, MEC, in his absentia, Comrade Siboniso Duma, Minister Lindiwe Zulu, MEC Super Rose Zuma, members of Diplomatic Corps. Okay, I'm sorry. Members of Diplomatic Corps in BRICS countries, Dean of KZN Diplomatic Corps, Mr. Allen Grigori, I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it correct. Distinguished, we'd like to extend the warmest welcome to you all. We are delighted to host yet another BRICS engagement as the city, and we hope you are enjoying your stay. Today's gathering is even more significant because it coincides with the launch of the Women's Month, where we celebrate and honor women's contribution in the struggle for freedom. We continue to pay tribute to those brave women who marched to the Union Building to demand equal rights and justice for all citizens. Themed Accelerate Social Economic Opportunities for Women's Empowerment this year, Women's Month is a call to all action to all stakeholders, including government, business, in the economy. We must work together to ensure that women play a meaningful role in the mainstream. On the other hand, we are encouraged by the upcoming BRICS Summit to take place later this month, and we hope in this is going to advance the women's agenda on the global scale. Appropriate theme, BRICS and Africa Partnership for Mutual Accelerated Growth, Sustainable Development and Inclusive. Women must be front of the driving development and promoting inclusive multi-terrorism. Ladies and gentlemen, our struggle stalwart and South Africans first Hlahla Mandela said, I quote, "Freedom cannot be achieved unless women have emancipated from all forms of oppressions," close quote. We continue to strive inspiration from Madiba, and we are comforted by knowing that our fight for women's emancipation is part of fulfilling his vision for his country. Our party transformation program, which states that the municipality must allocate 30% of its procurement spend on women, youth, people with disabilities, and military veterans owned enterprise. This is crucial for us because when women earn a living, they are able to take care of families, and in turn we can grow the economy. Therefore, there are many benefits to creating a conducive environment in the economic for women to become active players in the growth and prosperity for our society. In closing, We're looking forward to frank and robust discussion that will put women's issues on the global agenda. Let us work together to empower women so that we give a whole next generation of girls and young women. Wathinta abafazi, wathinta imbokodo. Siyabonga.
Wathinta abafazi. Wathinta abafazi. Uzokufa. There is a song that we normally sing in the NGO that I am a member of, but it will be sung by everyone. It's very nice, a nice song. It's Igama lamakosikazi libongwe ika. You cannot sit down when you're singing this song, even if you are a man. Malibongwe, 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 ikamala makosigazi, malala makosigazi, malibongwe, 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 ikamala makosigazi, malibongwe, ikamala makosigazi, malibongwe, 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 igama lamakhosikazi. Siyabonga. You are not gonna be bored here. We're coming here in order to celebrate. Where DJ? Do we have vibes? You know, we really want to. Ne, DJ, where are you? Okay, we are in a celebratory mood, ne? We're celebrating ourselves as women. All right, let me acknowledge Professor Anil Suklal. You are most welcome, sir. We really, really appreciate your presence here. And the ambassador at large for Asia and BRICS and South Africa's BRICS Sheba. You are most welcome. Yes, so I am still receiving some information about the Ambassador, High Commissioner of the Republic of India, is here. His Excellency Mr. Sarkar is around. Okay, Ambassador of the People's Republic of China is around. They're all here. Oh, okay, Premier. May we invite you to sit in the front here. Ambassador of the Republic of Russian Federation, Mr. Rogachev, and Mr. Felix Paestifaria. Please, pardon me, I cannot really pronounce this one. And the Chief Executive Officer of Moses Kotane Institute, an anchor of the roundtable discussion, and the esteemed members of the panel. Of course, they are still going to be mentioned. I think those who are supposed to be assisting me here in terms of acknowledging the presence of our guests are a little bit unfair to me, because they were supposed to have given me names of those guests who are supposed to be acknowledged, but nevertheless, we really appreciate your message of welcome. Mayor Nolbabalo, Zondi, thank you very much for welcoming us. I heard you saying in the eThekwini Metro, you are allocating 30% of economic opportunities to women. Is that so? If that is the case, we really appreciate that. But women are still going to engage all of us, public representatives, on all our pronouncements. You know, we need to account. The DGs, the HODs are here, the DDGs are here. The policy of government says 30% should be allocated to women in eThekwini. When it comes to representativity of women, 50%, you know. We're saying 50% women must be represented in all the structures, in all the sectors of our society. So you must be very vocal and fight for your rights, women. You need to be vocal and fight for your rights. That's what you need to do. All right. Dr. Tandega, where are you? Ukhona uThandeka? Ukhona uThandeka? Okay, cela ahlale nje la uThandeka. But ke entertainment right now. Oh, I'm very sorry. Manje ngitshela ngani? Zothetha phela ngisalukazi mina. All right, but we are expecting a cultural group from Lamontville. Where are they? Cultural group? Okay, over to you. They are referred to as Lamontville Cultural Ensemble. Again, isikhombisa ukuthi nazi nini nalapha eLamontville. Mangabe besina ke thina shaya ihlombe angithi. Shaya ihlombe. Woo, they are so beautiful. Look at them. Wow. They are so beautiful. Ake sibapheni ihlombe.
1, 2.
Okay, I'm told that they are supposed to come over the side. Organizers, the premier wants to see them here. I'm not sure whether they have already connected the honorary premier. Maybe it might be difficult for them to come over. I don't know. But hi. Abantu abahleli phansi. Officials, please. Tuba, you should be there. Everybody else. Fanele niyalekelela bakwethu. Kanti banjani labantu? Bafuna ngithethe. Bamagesi. Zothetha phela mina. Ngiyathetha. Lekelelana. Lozokusukuma upremier. Sengimhlalise phansi efuna ukusukuma. Nikhona. Heba kwethu. Ngeke niwona amagesi phela nini. Aniwona phela namagesi. Ngeke. How? OTP. There's not a single one who should be sitting down. You would rather stand there so that you may see when I call you, you know. There are exhibitors. Hey, zinhle into ezilaphana weba kwethu. Khona nesuka le ekhaya eMandeni. Na ke phela premier actually deployed me to Ilembe district. So, hey, ezaseMandeni, and I want all of you to buy from them. Please spend your money and buy from those women. Thengela unkosikazi wakho Mrs. Zuma. Mama nje wasekhaya.
Can we test? Kwela, we just want to check feedback. No, this is
Ajabule.
for feedback.
Mama.
Can you check all of them, please?
Siyaxolisa mkhaya.
Are you ready? Our deepest condolences to Tandega and her family. We are told that she actually lost her mom. Yes, shame, man. It's very sad. Ihlombe bo. Hawu. Sebeyithanqaze kangaka. Ha. Akudlala uyithanqaza. Hawu. Hey. Siyabonga abantu bam. Lamontville Cultural Ensemble. Okay, let us give them a big round of applause. Bengisathi ngizoya nami ngiyoyibhixa nje kabili kathathu basheshe baye. Oh, Nkosi. All right, we are proceeding with our program. May I invite Professor Anil Suklal to come over so that you may give us a message of support. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director. I was saying to Premier couldn't have chosen a more energetic and appropriate Program Director. You've put us in the you've put us in the proper mood. To our Honorable Premier, our People's Premier, very privileged. They were two former ambassadors. I had the privilege of working alongside them. And to have two women leaders here this morning at the beginning of Women's Month, I think is a great privilege for all of us. To MEC Zuma, Councillor Zondi, fellow councillors, Your Excellencies, dear friends, let me firstly acknowledge and appreciate the role that Premier has played in bringing us together this morning. About a month ago, I was with Premier, and she asked me, why is there no roadshow, BRICS roadshow in KZN? And I said, no, we must correct that. And I'm glad that Premier took this initiative to bring us together this morning, because BRICS is about all of us. BRICS is not just a intergovernmental process. And I think it gives us an opportunity to share and reflect on what government is doing, and together with all South Africans, what we can do in terms of advancing our interest within the BRICS community. So thank you, Premier, for convening us this morning in this format. Now, within 3 weeks' time, we will be marking the 15th BRICS Summit, which President Ramaphosa will host at the Sandton International Convention Center in Johannesburg. It's the third time that South Africa will host the BRICS Summit, having done so in 2013 here in eThekwini and again in 2018. And what value does it bring to South Africa, to the African continent, and to all of us as South Africans? Is there any benefit to us? Now, let me very briefly contextualize the evolution of BRICS. BRICS came together some 15 years ago as a meeting of leaders of the Global South countries. South Africa joined 2 years later in 2011, when the first summit was held in 2009. In Russia, we were not party to it. But it was part of a drive that South Africa started in terms of saying, which President Mbeki started in 2000, that countries of the Global South needed a global platform in which to articulate their views in a world that was still dominated by the Western liberal order that was established post-World War II. And we started off with IBSA, and this evolved later on into what is today the BRICS. Now, BRICS has become a powerful global force in a short period of 15 years. Today, BRICS accounts for 42% of the global population, 30% of the global landmass, over 20% of global manufacturing, 25% of nominal GDP, and 31.7% of PPP GDP, which is larger than the G7. G7 accounts for 30% of global GDP in terms of PPP terms, and BRICS is 31.7%. That will show you that in a short period of time, BRICS has become a powerful force. The value for South Africa, in 2013, our two-way trade with BRICS countries was 340 billion. Last year, it was 820 billion. That will give you an indication just how fast our trade is growing. Of course, in terms of the recent World Bank, IMF meetings, the spring meetings, the two fastest growing economies for this year in a period of sluggish economic global growth is India at about 6.2%, China 5.9%. 70% of global growth this year will come from Asia, and us being in this configuration has major benefits for us. Secondly, in terms of new investments, when I speak of new investments, I'm speaking of those countries that started investing in our economy post the democratic era, not those that supported sanctions and were part of that period of continuing to trade with the apartheid regime. Of course, we appreciate all of the relationships we have with countries around the world. But in terms of new entrants into the investment platform of South Africa, some of the fastest growing investments are coming from countries of the Global South, Africa included, Asia included, India, China being amongst the fastest growing investors. Not only that, we have about 600 Chinese companies present in South Africa and about 400 Indian companies. These are major employment opportunities for South Africans, and they provide an important platform, not just in terms of pushing back the frontiers of poverty and underdevelopment, but also in terms of practical advancement of our people in terms of skills, capacity building, as well as educational opportunities that they offer us in their respective countries through various scholarships and capacity building programs that we have. So on a multiple level, BRICS has been an important and viable platform for South Africa. We created the new development bank, the first multilateral development bank floated by countries of the Global South in 2016. That decision to create the bank was taken here in Durban in 2013 when we convened at the eThekwini Summit. And that bank has become one of the hallmarks of BRICS cooperation. Today, that bank is highly rated on the global front. The major credit rating agencies have given them a AAA and a AA+ rating. They have provided funding in times of the COVID pandemic. They provided $1 billion funding to deal with the COVID crisis in 2020. In 2021, they gave us another $1 billion loan in terms of dealing with the post-COVID economic recovery. To date, that bank has advanced about $5.5 billion to support 12 projects on sustainable development in South Africa, including our energy upgrading. So it's become an important source of funding for South Africa. We also created the contingency reserve arrangement to the value of $100 billion, that if any of the BRICS countries fall into financial difficulties, we do not need to go to the World Bank. We can go to the NDB in order to advance us finances in times of difficulties. None of us, of course, have reached that stage, but it's a facility that is there. Now, since we are celebrating Women's Month, I want to also emphasize that South Africa has provided tremendous leadership within BRICS. And this year, Minister Zuma put forward the idea that we must create a women's platform. We don't have a women's platform within BRICS. And we have now formalized that, and she called the first meeting of ministers responsible for women within the BRICS family, and this is the first time it's been done. Secondly, we have formalized the concept note to create a permanent women forum, and that will be launched during the summit. Another very important outcome of our chairing is the formalization of the youth track. We don't have a formal youth track. We had the youth summit here in Durban about 2 weeks ago, very successful, and they adopted the charter to create the BRICS Youth Forum, and that will also be launched at the summit. Now, these are two very important initiatives. Still on the issue of women's empowerment and fast-tracking women within BRICS, we created the Women's Business Alliance in 2020, and that Women's Business Alliance is going to meet here in Durban at the ICC, again, thanks to the patronage of our Premier. On the 20th and 21st, over 1,000 delegates from all of the BRICS countries and 15 African countries will convene for the first meeting of the BRICS Women's Business Alliance, specifically on the role of business, women in business within the BRICS community, and what is it that we can do in terms of providing opportunities and network opportunities amongst fast-tracking women in business in BRICS and women entrepreneurs. So these are some of the key initiatives that we have taken as part of our chairship of BRICS. We are going to have the largest ever gathering of leaders in South Africa, and I think in recent time, the Global South, because President Ramaphosa has taken the decision that as part of the BRICS outreach, he's invited the entire African continent, and we have invited a further 20 global leaders from the Global South to attend the conference. So over 71 countries have been invited to partake in the BRICS outreach program on the 24th of August, and this will be the largest gathering of global leaders from the South. And many political commentators are characterizing this as a tectonic moment in global geopolitics, because what you're going to see here is probably the expansion of BRICS. As you know, over 20 countries have formally applied to become members of BRICS, and this again demonstrates the confidence that the Global South, and not just the Global South, a few European countries have also asked to become part of BRICS. You would have seen that even President Macron has asked to attend the BRICS summit. And this is the gravity, the global gravity that BRICS enjoys today, the confidence it enjoys in terms of the leadership that it has provided these past 15 years for the global community, and that is why all of these leaders are coalescing around BRICS and saying we want to be part of this movement. Of course, Africa has been very much part of BRICS since we first chaired in 2013. We had the outreach with Africa. We did so again in 2018 when President Ramaphosa invited the entire SADC to be part of the outreach with the BRICS leaders. And as I've said, this time we have the entire African community leadership as part of the BRICS outreach. So it's important to recognize that BRICS is not just about us as government. It is about all sectors of society, and that the benefits of BRICS accrues to all of us. And I think it is our responsibility all of us being ambassadors of BRICS, to speak about the benefits of BRICS to all South Africans. Very often in the mainstream media, you have negative reporting about BRICS. BRICS was never created as a competition to any bloc. It was created to advance the interest of the Global South, who continues to be marginalized in a very changed global reality of what we had in 1945. The world of 2023 is totally different from the world of the post-World War period. The world is no longer dominated by 5 or 6 hegemons. You have major countries from the developing South that are bigger economies and more influential on the global stage, but yet they do not enjoy the same kind of privileges that certain countries have abrogated to themselves since the establishment of the so-called Western liberal order. So I want to thank Premier and I want to thank all of you for being ambassadors of BRICS and for advancing the cause of South Africa's membership of BRICS and championing the cause of why BRICS must be the architect of a new global order that is more fair and where no one is left behind, and that the world is a world of fellowship where every citizen is valued and party to a new world architecture that we all are party to. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Prof. A big round of applause for him. Thank you. I'm also acknowledging your partner. Yes, who has joined us. She actually joined us even in our previous engagement. All right, ngicela ukwamukela ngokuhlonipha amakhosi asendlunkulu kanye nabondlunkulu. Ngiyezwa ukuthi khona amakhosi, khona abondlunkulu phakathi kwethu, namukelekile kakhulu amakhosi asendlunkulu. Siyajabula kakhulu kuba khona kwenu lapha. Yeah, Prof has actually said a mouthful about the importance of us participating in the BRICS space as women. It's very, very important for us to pay attention to this presentation that Prof has actually made. In order for us to also benefit, BRICS will be hosted here in South Africa. And as you're seated there, you must ask yourself, what role am I going to play? What benefit out of all the economic opportunities that are going to present themselves through BRICS, am I also going to have access to? Pay attention. The Premier is still going. Pay attention. She has been leading this process of participation of women in the BRICS environment, as Prof has actually alluded to that. So pay attention. All of you must actually pay attention to what is happening. We cannot host such an auspicious occasion in the month of August, yet women of South Africa are not going to benefit anything out of it, and they are not going to participate. Let me also take this opportunity and thank Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma for the role she continuously plays in ensuring that women are acknowledged and women do participate in all spheres of life, in all sectors of the society, in the economic opportunities that present themselves to women. It's all up to you to grab those opportunities because they are there. Last time, there was a woman who was telling us that, you know what, I am the only woman who is benefiting from the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement from South Africa, who is participating in Uganda. And she's running a medical facility there. And a woman from South Africa in Uganda, because she did pay attention when that opportunity was actually presented to women. And he started knocking at different doors. Today, she is acknowledged as that phenomenal woman who is actually making a very, very important contribution towards empowerment of women, even in that African country. So it's very, very important for us to pay attention. We are told that the Women's Business Alliance has been established through BRICS. What is your role? How are you going to benefit from that? Pay attention. I really want to be emphatic on the fact that we need to listen and listen carefully. And then ask yourself, how are you going to participate in that space? Okay, siyabonga kakhulu. Sicela to our first female premier in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, Mama Unomusa Dube ukuthi azos address. Somsukumisa ke ngale ngoma ethi wenu yazi we premier wethu wenu yazi so ngoba kanjani wenu ya we premier wethu wenu yazi so ngoba kanjani wenu ya we premier wethu wenu yazi so ngoba kanjani anyakazi nje ya we premier wethu wenu yazi so ngoba kanjani wenu ya we premier wethu wenu yazi so ngoba kanjani wenu ya we premier wethu wenu yazi so ngoba kanjani wenu ya we premier wethu wenu yazi. Aveni bahle abantu besifazane. Nina nje nila, you are so beautiful, I'm telling you.
Super Rose. Thank you very much. Hey, my daughter. Yeah, hambi voice, yeah. My babu. Thank you, MEC, Program Director, MEC Nkonyeni. I do wish to acknowledge our acting minister in the presidency, Minister Lindiwe Zulu, my MEC of Department, MEC Zuma, Councillor Nolbabalo Zondi, Professor Sugnal, and Mrs. Suklal. I also wish to acknowledge our representatives from the Diplomatic Corps in Ndlunkulu KwaZulu ekhona kanye nathi labanamhlanje uNdlunkulu wasematheni. I'm told ukuthi ukhona ngakamboni kodwa. Siyabingelela siyabonga. Siyayibingelela iNdlunkulu yonke ekhona. Siyabonga banani namakhosi aseNdlunkulu siyawabingelela. Izmeya ezikhona ipanel ezoba khona la. Siyafisa uyi-acknowledge before Director General Advocate Maluleka and all other Director Generals abakhona. Kukhona delegations from BRICS countries, but also we have a delegation from Mozambique. We also wish to acknowledge you, all our representatives from African countries who have joined us. It really gives us a great pleasure to be welcoming you all this morning, proudly standing on the shoulders of 20,000 women who marched to the Union Building on the 9th of August to protest against the extension of the past laws. Indeed, we are really proud as KZN that we are part of this BRICS family, and that wanted all of you as women in KZN in particular, our officials included, to know more about BRICS, but to also appreciate the new markets that BRICS are bringing to our province in particular. We also witnessed another brave generation of women leaders commanded by the Secretary General of the 4th United Nations World Conference of Women in Beijing, where Madam Gertrude Mongela, together with the likes of Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, Abu Minister Geraldine Moleketi, and many others who firmly reasserted the rights of women in the global stage, particularly in the global south. Today, we are marking 28 years of that CEDAW declaration in Beijing. And I think it's important to see where are we in terms of all these opportunities that get to be opened for us. On this day of the 1st of August, we commemorate the spirit of Victoria Mxenge, an anti-apartheid activist, community leader, and a human rights lawyer who was assassinated on this day. Apartheid government. Indeed, our freedom was not free, and it was never free. The march to emancipation of empowerment of women is not going to be easy, but we'll carry on fighting. I'm also reminded that in August last year, many leaders, CEO leaders of KwaZulu-Natal, led by the team from the Great Impact, Abosis Tobe and many others, who stood up and said, as women CEOs of KwaZulu-Natal, we want to pledge our support to you as the first MEC women. And they embarked on a number of projects to empower other women, but also in the name of the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal to say, what impact can we make as women to other women? And I do wish to acknowledge that, Sis Tobe and all other team members, and say thank you, because it was still very dark. I still did not know what to do, where to start, but you really gave me a platform to say, I'm not alone. There's many other women out there. And even in this room, there's been many women and men who've been supportive of the work that we are doing. And we wish to thank you on the 1st day of August to say the struggle continues. We're nowhere near the finish line, but we cannot also be despaired and look back. We need to soldier on. And to launch the 2023 Women's Month in KwaZulu-Natal, for us is a major boost, not only to women of our province, of our country, not even of Africa, but highlights the potential of all women in the global south, women that makes 50% and more to the total population of BRICS nations, which is well over 3.4 billion people, and further 1.3 billion in Africa. We are indeed a force to be reckoned with. But how can we make our presence felt as women? And thank you, Anil. You've spoken at length about the opportunities that are brought by BRICS countries. We've got Brazil, a huge market in the global south. We've got Russia. We've got India, we've got China and South Africa. And all these are countries that have come together, and many others, as Professor Suklal has indicated, that there's many others who now want to join BRICS. And I was reminding Minister Zulu, Ambassador Uguti, remember we were still ambassadors when we were talking IPSA. It was before it was BRICS. And here we are today talking about BRICS, and I think we can see how much more it's going to grow with all those other economies that are coming in. But we need to then say, what does that say to us as people of KwaZulu-Natal? Those markets that we're talking about, but not only of KwaZulu-Natal and African continent, because we need to be talking numbers. When we are to manufacture socks, we need to be talking numbers. When we are to manufacture beads, we need to be talking numbers, not just what is in the table. There's billions of people that we are talking about. And we have also started to advance in getting even to Amazon, and including, which is the other one, Ambassador, the other one, the Chinese one, not the Amazon. Alibaba, yes, the Alibaba. We are also on the line to get into Alibaba, but it's not going to be a need to showcase and sell in those platforms. That is why we've started a project in KwaZulu-Natal of trying to register everybody who's doing anything, construction, to making whatever, whether you went to ucansi, whether wenza ini, noma yini, noma isikhwama, noma yini. We want ucansi. Ukanting 10. Ucansi. Ucansi. Amacansi, ufuna ngithi amacansi. Phela qala ngolodwa ukwenza ucansi. Okay. Noma ngabe nenza amacansi, noma ngabe nenza igqoko, siyayifuna ukuyifaka lapha ya ku Amazon. Because there are countries in this globe who wants these products in Africa. And that is why I'm highlighting kakhulukazi izinto that are unique to us. Because other products might be available in other countries, but there are products that are not available in other countries, but you can only get them here in Africa. And those are some of the things that we want to showcase there. But when you showcase those things, you're not talking about hundreds of them. You're talking about billions of that we need to supply to these industries. That's why I'm underscoring the point of collaboration, the point of networking. Ukuthi we can't do it alone. That's why isisho sithi uzoyithola kanjani. Uhlele khoneni ngeke uyithole uwedwa. Sizoyithola mangabe sihlangene sikwazi ukuthi when we are doing we planting onions, ngaze ngithi onions. No amasaga nje I few. Because we're talking numbers, and if we are to take that to China or to India or wherever, they want to have numbers. I heard on the radio the transportation of a ship that is happening, those 50,000 ships that get transported every month. And I remember we're talking to our partners in the Asian countries who want izimbuzi, and they want like 100,000 per month. And we have not even started even to think, ukuthi, those are the markets that are waiting for us. Those are the markets that we should be exploring seated here to say, how do we produce products that we are going to give to this market? So that is why we are here today, to say to all of you, there are opportunities that are available for us to take. I had a pleasure this morning before I came here to meet with one of the representatives, senior managers of the International Chamber of Chinese International Cooperation. They've got more than 300,000 companies that they have in their database. in China. And these are big companies. 50 of them are going to be coming to KwaZulu-Natal on our BRICS Africa Women. And these are companies that are serious companies that are needing to make trade. Yes, we are going to be signing some deals on our conference on the 20th on our BRICS Women, but we are having follow-ups that we want to do in October, where those companies that are going to be here, we want to follow up and sign more deals by October to those who are going to be able to collaborate and contact and network with those companies, women companies that are going to be attending our conference. We've got another further, I think 50 or more that will be coming from the African continent, as well as Africa. So that's just the 50 that is coming from China. We've got another 20 coming from Russia, another 50 or so coming from India, from Brazil, and these are serious women-owned companies, big companies that are going to be attending our BRICS Women conference that we're going to be staging here in KwaZulu-Natal. So we've also had pleasure of hosting the BRICS Youth, as the Ambassador Suklal has said. Ambassador Suklal is Ambassador at Large. Ambassador at Large is a South African ambassador of BRICS. He's responsible for all the BRICS countries. And you can imagine the work that has been trying to help us as KwaZulu-Natal to penetrate those markets, but also to understand the importance of the BRICS markets. When we hosted the BRICS Youth, Ambassador said they came up with a declaration there that is going to be going to the heads of states. We also hosted the Minister of Sports in KZN. They've also worked on their own declarations that are going to the heads of states. We're hosting from today, we're also hosting BRICS health ministers. They're starting today with BRICS senior managers, and then from tomorrow, it's going to be BRICS ministers. It's also being held here in KwaZulu-Natal. We've hosted from the 27th, we've hosted BRICS Urbanization Forum, which was dealing with issues of climate change, build environment. BRICS countries were all there, including local governments from various countries. And these are all the initiatives that we've tried really to bring to KZN so that we also have a share of what is happening there at BRICS. And these declarations are going to be written: Durban Declaration on Youth, Durban Declaration on Women, Durban Declaration on Health, and Durban Declaration on Urbanization. But more than that, we've also spoken about some of the deals and agreements that are going to be signed by the BRICS heads of states. As they are coming here, they're going to be signing some declarations, but also agreements. And we've said to all of you and those that are not here, that are even listening on the social platform, as those deals or agreements are being signed, we want to be first on the door before even the ink dries on those papers, to say you've signed an agreement on trading on meat. I've heard of the one, especially the one of avocados, that is going to be signed. And really, Neville, you would have let us down, and all of you, if we can't be ready for that one, because we have a lot of avocados. Every house have got avocados, and we can't fail to supply, billion avocados to China. I think it's China that needs avocados, as well as citrus and all those things that are going to be signed. But where are we? Are we ready? Or are we going to be the third party down the line when somebody is going to be saying they can supply, but they come to us to supply? And we come down the value chain as a third party. And all the monies would have gone to the first person who's saying they can supply and export those products. So it's very important that as we are gathered here, this is not just for us to come and dance and talk, but I would like some and projects that will come out of these discussions, as well as the ones that will come out from the Women Breaks Africa that we're going to be holding on the 20th. So please, we are going to be talking about issues of gender-based violence on this month. As we see that we're still fighting the scourge and an embarrassment to us in this day and age to still talking about gender-based violence, that women are abused physically, mentally, psychologically, financially. Women are still being abused. And these are some of the things that we need to talk about. Mental health of our women. This month would like to put those issues to discuss. How healthy are we mentally? Because we know that sometimes we take it for granted that with all the stresses and pressures that we face at home, in the workplace as leaders, in the society as leaders, and we take it that it is okay for us to just sit without having to retool somewhere that load. So it's going to be important that we start those dialogues, we look at the hotspots. And one thing that I always say, Mr. Nkonyeni, women in the corporate, kakhulukazi women leaders, they get embarrassed because they are being abused, whether it's financially or psychologically. That's why I'm talking about it. It's something that we can talk about it for MEC Zuma bengekho. So that sihlebeke sodwa ukuthi yona ingxaki lento le yethu yokuthi sahlukumezeka singabantu besifazane, psychologically, physically. Yes, we might not have the physical scars, but we carry mental scars. We carry psychological scars. And we need to be able to talk about those things and say, how do we heal ourselves so that we can heal our children? Because we are a reflection of our children. Kakhulukazi omama. Yes, baba, yeah, siyabathanda. Ngamalala Super siyanthanda. But I know that the first person ekhaya okukhulunywa naye ngumama. That is why on this month, on this Women's Month, we're grateful, Minister, that the national government decided to come and launch the Women's Month here in KwaZulu-Natal. We are honored that the Women's Month launch, that we're going to be playing a critical role, a leading role in the country towards the build-up of Africa chairship of the BRICS Summit to be held later this month. So today's launch reminds us that our province and our country survival on our networks, especially our trading partners in the rest of the world. We welcome the topic of BRICS, the BRICS Roundtable that we're going to have, the discussion on energy that we're going to have. I know that our topic is going to be focused on energy, but the other issues that we put on the table are issues of infrastructure building, issues of technology, issues of partnership with innovation, because we have a lot of women that innovate, but they hardly, secure those as their private rights. We hardly register the patents for our innovation. And those are some of the topics would like to put on the table for us to discuss as women. to say, how do we patent our products so that we can make money instead of others making money with our sweats? So I'm particularly pleased that we are going to be talking about the role of women in resolving the current energy crisis and challenges through infrastructure development. And when we talk infrastructure, we don't only talk build environment, we talk the whole of infrastructure. Be they roads, be they bridges, be they port development. I've heard one of our colleagues who's part of our Great Impact, Uguti, they're not able to meet their quotas of women participating in Transnet. But where are we to take those opportunities that are available there? I've said a lot and I've said a mouthful, but I'm grateful to all of you who've been able to make time to come to this dialogue. And I'm really also grateful and honored that we've had a tremendous support from all of you, particularly myself as a guinea pig. I'm a guinea pig. First woman after 30 years, 30 years. Yeah, 30 years of democracy. Yeah, it took 30 years in KwaZulu-Natal before they can have a woman. I mean, really? 30 years. Yeah. And I think when it comes to the next term, I would not want us to lose the sport. Because I know that in 30 years, when we were not in this position, our voices were not heard as much. We were not there in the golf when they play golf. They play golf. And after golf, they talk serious stuff. They don't just play golf. They talk serious stuff. Where are we, Tina? Senzani? Siyapheka nje kuphela. Siyapheka nje kuphela. Mase bebuya kwi-golf, sibaseva ama-tray. So it's important to our women of Africa that we assert ourselves. We've made it so far. We are women who are commanding massive companies here in this room and commanding massive leadership roles in various platforms. And I acknowledge the work that is done by you. Sister Bear, I single out you because you're in front of me, but I know that the Great Impact team might be here, those CEOs that are my wings. Beneath my shoulders. But we need to create more of our women to say there is a lot that we can do when we partner, when we connect, when we network. At this point, please allow me to introduce a leader who is a member of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress, as well as the chairperson of the African National Congress Committee on International Relations. She was educated in Swaziland, a point where she joined the African National Congress, the ANC, after the 1976 student uprising. She was in exile, lived in Morogoro in Tanzania, where she was offered a scholarship to study journalism, as well as in Russia. She obtained a master's degree in journalism after her studies in Moscow. She joined the Liberation Army, Umkhonto weSizwe. Once her military training was complete, she joined the Pan-African Women's Organization, UPAWO, in Angola, where she was appointed as a coordinator in the communications committee. She has held several communications positions. She was appointed head of communication in the ANC Department of the Religious Affairs. She also heads and served as head of communication in Uganda, in our head office in Uganda. In 1991, she returned to South Africa and became head of communications of the Women's League, after which she was appointed as a spokesperson. I've said that not only is she one of our brightest minds, she was an ambassador, and she served her term with diligence. I think we were ambassadors at the same time, and we were grateful that we were young ambassadors, and we also broke a record there, Minister. Let me tell you, women, how difficult it is to be a woman. Ambassador Sukla. When I assumed my office in the Czech Republic, I got a baby, and I was told that there is no, maternity leave, because they've never had a woman ambassador who's had to give baby, showing that it's always been man. And we had to say, well, we need to establish a policy of maternity because here's the baby. And we had a policy that said you can't be out of your country of resident with, more than 30 days or more than 15 days or so. So meaning that my baby had to take a passport when she was 2 weeks. We had to take a passport of her because she had to go. We had to go back to the country of residence because otherwise we're not allowed in terms of the South African international relations laws to be out of the resident country for more than 15 days. And it reminded me of the time when Parliament started in 1994 when there were no female toilets in Cape Town. There were no female toilets. Yeah, there were no female toilets because there's never been females who were members of Parliament. So I'm just trying to highlight how much we have to go through as women, but also how much we still need to go through in terms of changing the policies and changing the mindset of our colleagues, but also breaking those new grounds in terms of what it is that as women, we don't have facilities of our children's care in the workplace. And Minister Zulu is the Minister of Social Development. And one of her tasks is to also ensure that our rights as women, our vulnerable groups are taken care of. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with a round big of applause our Minister Lindy Wezulu as she comes on stage.
Thank you very much. Firstly, Program Director, thank you very much. It's good to see you. KwaZulu-Natal is in good hands, I can tell you that. Oh, KwaZulu ngashiya uNatal. Ngelinye ilanga somsusu Natal. Yeah. Thank you very much, Program Director, for this opportunity. Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, my sister, my comrade, Nomusa Dube Ncube, lest we forget, what the Premier said here is fact and truth about the fact that when we came into Parliament, the toilets for women were very far away from the committee meetings, from the Parliament itself, because most of the time when women went there, they had gone there ukuyokapha nje abayeni babo as spouses. And lest we forget, because I think sometimes we seem to be forgetting too quickly where we came from and the journey that we have walked. And if we forget too quickly, we might not even be able to see the progress that we have made. So to everybody in the room, I'm not just saying this to women, but both men and women who are in the room, lest we forget. And forgetting, a nation that forgets its history, I don't know what to call a nation. I haven't seen a nation like that in all my travels in the world. When we travel, we are taken to museums and other places where we are reminded how the journey of the freedom of democracy, democracy and building institutions of democracy all over the world. And South Africa cannot afford to be one of those countries that seem to forget that at some point, not so long ago, you could not even sit in this room where we are sitting. MECs and all members of the provincial legislature who are present here, and of course I'm sitting next to Super Rose, and me and him keep on making the comments about kufuneka sincedisane sonke as men and women to build a better South Africa. Ambassador at large, Asia and BRICS and South Africa BRICS Sherpa, Professor Anil Suklal and your spouse. And it's a pleasure to see you and to hear you. There's a lot that will come out of Ambassador Suklal, because at some point I also used to be in the Department of Foreign Affairs then, International Relations today. And the MEC is right, the Premier is right when she says we were once ambassadors, and at that point we did not think that we would be where we are with BRICS today. Never mind all the things that have happened towards this summit and us being labeled all kinds of things. This summit is going to take place. And this summit is going to be successful, as I know that the Department of International Relations and government at large have been preparing for this summit. And I dare say that it was not only the government that was preparing for this summit, it was also the business, the women, the youth. And it's quite exciting for me to hear that we now will be having the Women's Business Alliance, Women's Platform, Youth Platform, because again, if I recall when we started Ambassador Suklal, it was very difficult to bring others onto it. And the issue of bringing and starting women's forums and having the conversations by women themselves was very difficult. And so for South Africa to have stood up so firmly and said this shall happen, we must give the government, and through the relevant minister, and Minister Naledi Pandor in particular, who not only fights about these things within the country itself, but goes out globally in platforms such as this one. I also wish to thank the Consular General of the People's Republic of China, who is here, the Consular General of India, who is here, the Consul General of Mozambique, Ngibone igama lakhe uMatola, and spouse. And for a moment I recalled that at one time in the 70s, Matola was one of the places where we lived as South Africans who were in the struggle, South Africans who were waiting to go either to school or to go to MK. And it's one of those areas that was brutally attacked by the apartheid regime, and many of our comrades died there. Baze babathela nge-napalm bomb. And again, it's the history that we need to keep on reminding ourselves, because when we remember that history, we can see the progress that we have made since then. And of course, I wish to thank the Director General of the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Advocate Joyce Maluleke. I want to tell you the story that I was busy in a meeting somewhere, and then I got the call, hey, Minister, Minister, we're too humble. And I knew I was acting for the minister, but I didn't know that I would find myself in Durban today. But as she knows, I always take those responsibilities with pleasure. And especially responsibility that is related to women, because I believe, as U Premier said, we are the working people who can tell the stories of the things that we've gone through as women to be able where we are today. So I took that responsibility with utmost grace, because I think that the excitement for me was the fact that the BRICS Summit is going to be taking place in Johannesburg. But for the province of KwaZulu-Natal, as well as the Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, who I admire so much. I've worked with Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma as her advisor many years ago when we used to run around in the African continent trying to bring peace, security, and stability in the continent. And she's one woman who has got the greatest respect in the continent. So again, yabona usisi omdala mayikuthuma usukuma ngespeed ugijima uyowenza lo msebenzi loyo. And then also the Director General of KwaZulu-Natal, Dr. Nonhlanhla Mkhize, who is here, representatives of civil society and women organizations, but most importantly, the women who are in business who are here today. It really is a pleasure to have you here. And as Program Director said to us earlier on when she started, women need to be vocal. You need not only just be vocal, you need to be able to showcase that we are just as capable of doing those businesses, of building those businesses, and creating that wealth that is very necessary for the future. Ushilo futhi Program Director ukuthi we as women must stand up and make sure that we empower each other. My new slogan, Program Director, is about we as government, we empower women so that women can power themselves. Because you are empowered, and then you look around, you are empowered because you need to power yourselves. And the only way you can power yourselves is to stand up and speak out and be heard and demand, maybe even go and play that golf, holes plus other. So maybe you should also play that golf and then teach the other younger women too that they can find each other by the golf courses. So it's a pleasure for me to be here today, obviously representing Usisi Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, who's currently attending the 4th session of the Joint Ministerial Commission in Addis Ababa. And unfortunately, UDM wakhe Usisi Sitolashe, the brand new president of the African National Congress Women's League, I'm hoping that she will also be able to pull other progressive political parties into this, because for the young women who are here, maybe you might not know, in the olden days, I think Program Director, together with the delegations of government here, especially Premier, will remember that in the olden days there was the discussions or the talks in Kempton Park, and at the time it was only the men who were sitting there at the negotiations table, around the negotiations table. And it took the women, the African National Congress, to mobilize other women under what we used to call Women's Coalition. So abantu nje baqala ngama coalition today, bangasibhedeli kodwa ngalawa abama coalition. Lama coalition esasinawo thina kwakwama coalition which are very fair, coalitions that were very committed to fighting and struggling for the women of South Africa. It was that women's coalition that went there by force, being led by women like Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, to go and demand that women be part and parcel of the negotiations. It's history that gets lost, because I recall very well that it was said any political party that does not have a woman or women delegations within them, they must keep chairs that are with nobody, to show that they are saying they do not have women that they can bring there. So you must appreciate and really truly understand the struggle that we have had to carry for women to be at the same table where the decisions are being made. But that history is not history that must be lost, because I know that the young women of today, They need to know that history because they need to do exactly the same things that we did. If they think freedom and emancipation of women will come just like that, it's not going to happen. It will continue to be a struggle until we get rid of patriarchy, until we get rid of power relations, because whether you like it or not, the fact that you come home and you still have to be cooking and cleaning and ironing, that's power relations. It's got nothing to do with anything. It's got everything to do with some people who feel very comfortable that when they come home, they just get the plate given to them. They don't know how it was cooked and all that. So it is a struggle that you must know you're going to a long time ago. And we still are fine with our husband. We are still fine with our family, but we made sure that we stand up and say there's certain things that won't happen. We still love each other very much. We still fight and argue over these things, but you must get rid of those things, because if you don't, your girl child is gonna go through the same. Your great-granddaughter, they all gonna go through the same. And then they complain afterwards. If you don't take charge of it and you think somebody else is gonna do it for you, forget it. You have to do it yourself. So we are here. At the outset, I wish to thank the collective leadership of KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Government, as led by the Premier Nomusa Dube Ncube, for your readiness to co-host the official launch of this year's National Women's Month program, which is part of the build-up of activities for the 15th Summit of BRICS nations that South Africa will be hosting very soon. I'm hoping Premier, MECs and all, nizoke nihambe niye nasemakhosini nasendlunkulu nakuyo yonke indawo ke niyobatshela nje ukuthi yini le esikhuluma ngayo. Ngizwele ukuthi bakhona la endlini. Socela ukuthi nabo mabehamba bephindele ekhaya baphinde baxoxe ngokuthi hayi besilapha yakukhulunywa ngeBRICS. Now, I think in India, I think even maybe in Brazil, you can still find some traditional people there. You know, the Brazilians, as you all know, went through the difficulties of destruction of the first people of Brazil, who were massacred for many years, but they still are respecting their culture, they still respecting all that. And so, nathi la KwaZulu, uNatal sombona kusasa. Nathi la KwaZulu, we have abantu abaphethe, abantu okufuneka ukuthi ngaso sonke isikhathi bacabange bahlale bacabanga ngabantu ukuthi iservice yabo, because to be a king, to be a chief, to be induna, to be anything, you cannot be any of that unless there are people, and the people must be at the center of what you do. We are indeed honored as a country to be the chair of BRICS this year under the theme BRICS and Africa, Partnership for Mutually Accelerated Growth, Sustainable Development and Inclusive Multilateralism. We look forward to continuing to engage with our partner countries on many issues of common interest, and I think that Ambassador Suklal spoke at length about that, so I won't go deeper into that. Safe to say that we take great pride in the fact that over the past decade, women's development in BRICS countries have improved significantly in healthcare, education, the economy, participation in decision-making and management, as well as in technology. I recall, Ambassador Suklal, that when I was a Minister of Small Business Development, we fought also for small and medium enterprises to be also taken seriously under BRICS. And I recall very well that ultimately our fight did pay something, because we were invited, myself and the DG then of Small Business Development were able to travel to India when BRICS was being hosted in India. And I'm hoping that that aspect of small and medium enterprises doesn't get lost. Really respond to unemployment, poverty, and inequality are usually your men and women who are out on the street who maintain their families by running their small and medium enterprises. So, issues of unemployment and poverty and inequality, fighting against negative stereotypes and norms and values that continue to allow patriarchy to impact the lives of women and girls, fighting against the scourge of gender-based violence. And South Africa is one country that sometimes when we go internationally, we speak all the beautiful things about our country. We tell people the journey of the 30 years almost of democracy. We tell people about how we have done our best to develop our country under very difficult circumstances. And people stand up and say, but tell us, why are you killing so many women? Tell us why so many women are being abused. Tell us why women suffer gender-based violence and femicide. This is one thing that we really have to work hard on, especially during the month of August. This is just a month for highlighting, but we should be doing these things 365 days of the year. And I have, as a Minister of Social Development, working with the Department of Women, Youth and People with Disability, I have said, Premier, the issue of gender-based violence and femicide will not go away until we go house to house, street to street, community to community. Because house to house, we know who of the women are in any street. We know who are the women who are abused. On any street, we know where the families struggle because of gender-based violence. But we also know, street to street, house to house, what are the other social ills that attack and make life miserable for our women. So it's also a call from myself as a Minister of Social Development that we need to be able to know what's happening next door. Manje ke thina sesahlala kuma suburbs, high walls and all. You never see, you never hear, you never know until you are told to come to a funeral. And you dress up very smart to go to that funeral. We go to funerals almost all the time because some woman somewhere has been killed. We need to stop that, and the only way that we can stop it is to make sure that we attack this thing called gender-based violence, house to house, street to street, community to community. It will be a shame, obviously, when BRICS partners come here and in all the midst of fanfare and everything, then they wake up in the morning to a news or they read in some paper of some woman who was bashed and killed by a partner somewhere. It's very embarrassing for us, but it's also a shame for us as the country. Coming back to this reason why we are here today, I think that during this month, we commemorate the historic struggles and sacrifices of the twin evils of racism and sexism at the height of the apartheid regime. This year, we commemorate the National Women's Day and the month in general under the theme, Accelerating Socio Economic Opportunity for Women's Empowerment. The focus of this year's Women's Month will be an acceleration of socio-economic programs and activities that are undertaken across different sectors to fast-track gender mainstreaming across these initiatives, create more opportunities for women's inclusion and empowerment, enable women to either take up employment in the different sectors or develop their entrepreneurship or businesses. As I am here today, I do want to also indicate that it is not only the Department of Women, Youth and People with Disability that has to celebrate. The entire government must rally behind the Department of Women, Youth and People with Disability, and in the provinces, rally around the Premier's office and all the other MECs that are there, because sometimes we take it for granted that no, it's women's issues. Let's just take these issues and dump them with the Department of Women, Youth and People with Disability. Also forgetting that this ministry is very small in comparison. I am a Minister of Social Development. I have got an entire department with different units, but this one is a ministry in the presidency, rightfully so, because women demanded that it be there, but the disadvantage sometimes is that it's a small ministry with very little budget. So it is for that reason that at all times, the Department of Women, Youth and People with Disability, they demand when we are in cabinet, they demand to know what are other departments doing to support the issue of women and women's empowerment. And the focus of this year, as I've indicated, National Women's Month is a time to highlight both the plight of women and equally reflect on the strides that we have made as the country in the advancement of women's socio-economic emancipation. So August 9th marks the commemoration of National Women's Day annually in South Africa. This day was declared a national day in 1994, as the MEC, who's our program director, said today. I think we are the only country in the continent, I don't know about other countries, who actually have a day that is dedicated to us as a holiday. But we must be able to say it must not be a day that's dedicated to us and then people think they must run around and please us only on that day. I repeat it again. It is a 365 days work that we need to do, both men and women coming together, but also boys and girls being assisted and being assisted to understand what this day is for. And I do want to say at this point that a lot of men have stood up, for instance, to say, not in our name, that we will have this gender-based violence and all. And those men are now saying to us, thank you very much for focusing on women and all, but can you also make sure that you don't leave the young boys and men behind? We want to take you along with us. We want you as men to also take the responsibility of teaching yourself, assisting yourselves, because as you are mother, your sister, your aunt, your anybody who is female being abused, I don't think you'd like to see that. So make it a point that it becomes your responsibility as men. And in the commemoration of this National Day, the country does not only reflect on the past struggles of women, but the future. And the future, in my view, if I look at myself, and I always talk about my grandmother, who is the woman who made it possible for me to go to school, and the woman who sacrificed, who was a domestic worker in Johannesburg, somewhere in Johannesburg, in Parktown. She was a domestic worker in the 30s and the 40s. And when we were born in the 50s, she stopped and said she doesn't want to be a domestic worker. She's going to just make sure that having educated her own children, her grandchildren are going to be 10 times better. And that was possible. And I stand at any platform and I say where she is, she looks at us with pride, because I think I'm 1,000 times better, only because she did stand up and sacrifice for me to be able to go to school. And she did say to me, Africa is free, life will be very different for women. But she did say to me, it will not be like that simply because somebody has given you that. She said it's a struggle, as it was a struggle for herself. So now we are almost going towards the end of the 6th administration. We are advocating for a significant change in the positioning and character of the women's agenda in the country into an effective advocacy, project management, and implementation of matters relating to the well-being and advancement of interests of women, including young women, women with disabilities, women in the LGBTQIA+ community, rural women, poor women, and women mainly in the SMMEs and cooperatives. As we are almost towards the end and we'll be going to elections very soon, we must be able to celebrate the success stories of women, and we must show those success stories, and women themselves must speak. My view is that it shouldn't be us as government who are speaking about what we have done. It is the women who feel it, the change, who must stand up and speak about that change, because then when they do so, they enable the women who come behind them to say, yes, it is possible. Communication thing that is only done by government. The women who are here in this room, because I'm sure as women here, whether you are in government, whether you are in the private sector, whether you are in civil society activities and so forth, you are a creme de la creme of the communities where you come from. Because to be creme de la creme, it means somebody had to sacrifice for you to be here. And for you to be in this room, it means, and I'm 100% sure, many of you are here in this room because you've worked hard to be where you are. And the women, don't ever let anybody tell you they've done you a favor for you to be here. You came here because you worked hard through struggle and through tears. You came here because you are not being done a favor for being here. And so today we must remind ourselves that the emancipation of women will not be fully realized if women still remain excluded in many aspects of South Africa's life, but in particular financially and from the mainstream economy. We are therefore looking forward to the full and effective implementation of this historic game-changing African Continent Free Trade Area Agreement. And I was happy to hear that there's some South African who's somewhere in Uganda who's making that possible. Again, to the women, Premier nizoyithola kanjani nihlele khoneni. Most of us fear even stepping out to the neighboring countries. Many of us don't even have passports. They start running around looking for passport because an opportunity has presented itself. Again, step out of think is a comfort zone. Life does not begin and end in South Africa. Travel to Eswatini, travel to Mozambique, travel to Botswana, travel to Lesotho, travel to the Congo, for God's sake. I just came back from the Congo. Travel and take the chance, because business is about sacrificing. Business is about losing sometimes, gaining sometimes. And I think a lot of us in South Africa, we always think life begins and ends here. Life begins and ends here because we're also narrowed by somebody else who made us think, that's nonsense. Go out and engage with other people. Not long ago, I was in Ghana, I was in Cote d'Ivoire, and again, Ambassador Suklal, I think the Department of International Relations must encourage young people to take trips to other countries. And many a times they say, it's very expensive. Kubiza malini ukuthatha itaxi ucrossele eBotswana naseLesotho naseSwaziland. Young people are so afraid. When you tell them, how do the others travel all the way from Nigeria, from Niger, from Congo to whatever, and find themselves here in South Africa? What you think they had millions in their pockets? They had absolutely nothing, but they were told there are greener pastures somewhere else, and they went to look for those greener pastures. Tina, we've got a bit of an advantage. We've got a government that cares for people. So if you want to go, you can get in touch with the Department of International Relations. People do backpacking. They go and backpack in the entire Europe. Our own children must backpack around here in the African continent, because when they do so, they go out into the African continent, then they are able to also realize what progress has been made in South Africa. So it's a plea from me to you that let us allow and enable our children to also be exposed to the neighboring countries, so that it's not a one-way trip. People are coming from outside, coming here, and we are not going. We can't see the opportunities that exist there. We must, as a country, seek to continue to address the unemployment, inequality, and we can only address that by ensuring that we unite as a country. One of the things that really pains me, to be honest, Premier, is communication. On their screen, they do a voice-over over you. You are not the one talking. They just show your picture, but somebody else is talking like as if you were not talking. That, for me, is a problem. Communication also, for me, is something that shouldn't be only just what we see on TV and all. Communication must be something that happens within our communities. Within our communities, we've lost sight of each other. We no longer talk to each other. And yet communication must not be, now we have the social media. Yeah, social media can also be used for the good. I've seen somebody here who uses it for the good, who communicates. But unfortunately for us, Premier, I see sometimes the WhatsApp groups and all that, and I see the spewing of negativity so much. And I ask myself, how are people going to build themselves if all they are going to be doing is going to be looking at the negative side of things and insulting each other? Abasenamahloni neenhlamba ziyalahlelwa nje khona lapho kwi-social media. So communication must be something that we shape in such a way that it helps us to build our country. And I personally don't have anything against the media coming to our events and then showing become a communication that is building, a communication that is helping our communities, a communication that is saying, we were there those days, we are here now. The potential and possibility, we're gonna be far away from now. So that's another area that I think we need to really deal with. I don't want to be reading everything that I was given here because it can take a very long time, but Program Director, let me just conclude by saying that what the Department of Women, Youth and People with Disability also gave me to highlight are the key activities for the National Women's Month. It starts here, and I'm hoping that it will spread throughout the entire province. So on the 9th of August, operated in Khayelitsha, Western Cape, and will be presided over by His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa. The day will be preceded by a number of build-up activities, including the following. In partnership with the Department of Defense and Military Veterans, we will be hosting an event on the naval base in Simonstown, Western Cape on the 7th of August. The intention is to highlight the different roles women play in the South African Navy and encourage your young women to look, oh, but they look so beautiful when they are dressed in that uniform and all, and they're very disciplined and very orderly. So encourage your children also to go there. On the 8th of August, in partnership with Transnet, the department will be holding an activity at the Cape Town Harbour. The intention is to showcase the different activities in a port and where opportunities exist for women. From the 4th to the 6th August, we will be partnering with the International Chapter on Women Judges, the South African chapter, in a conference in the Western Cape. From the 11th to 16th August, we'll be hosting the BRICS meeting on both issues. On the 18th of August, the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities in partnering with MEC Nkonyeni will be focusing on the African continent free trade area. So we'll be back here again. On the 28th of August, we will be holding a webinar on women in the blue economy. Yes, this is an economy where women are not found. It reminds me of the late, may her soul rest in peace, Usisi Edna Mulewa. She really did a lot of work around telling women that it is possible. And in fact, she's the one that really pushing for us to appreciate the blue economy. Let that not be lost. On the 30th of August, we're working with WECONA, W-E-C-O-N-A, on the rollout in provinces. And from the 28th to the 31st of August, we'll be hosting the UN Global Gender Indicator Forum in partnership with Stats SA. In essence, the country is working towards effective coordination and coherence, adequate allocation of resources, mainstreaming the meaningful inclusion and participation of women, accelerating women's economic empowerment, and monitoring and evaluating progress towards the overall emancipation of women in the country. There's a lot of work that is being undertaken. However, much more needs to be done to ensure that women's rights are fully realized. Women's rights are human rights. As I conclude, I'd like to once again thank you for the opportunity to address this occasion, distinguished guests. It is now my pleasure to officially launch the 2023 National Women's Month program. I thank you.
Nishaye ihlombe engingakasho. Let's give our Honorable Minister a big round of applause. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, and let me also express our sincerest gratitude to our Honorable Premier for all what they have reflected on. Indeed, I really wish to encourage women to all these opportunities that have been presented here. Premier, we would love to join women in Cape Town. You know, we want to see what women are doing in that blue economy space. That are aimed at exposing women. I know very well that we have what we refer to as the Women's Economic Council here in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. I'm not sure who is actually participating there, but there is a Women's Economic Council that is supposed to be dealing with economic opportunities and also raise their voices to us as employees in government. Ikhona ke into esiphatha kabi bo DG, bo HOD, bo DDG and other officials. Into esiphatha kabi ukuthi uma lama khosikazi, these women are perhaps raising their concerns with us as political employees in government. Nina niphatheka kabi ukuthi why did you contact the MEC for finance instead of coming straight to me? And then that particular woman would be victimized. Kakhulu, don't do that, Bantabam, please don't do that. Bafika bazosho ukuthi, okay, MEC, you were trying to intervene, but you know, I really feel victimized now. Now that ngithinte wena, sengiyahlukumezeka. Akukho right lokho. Bayasazi, they voted for us. We are there representing them, representing their concerns and their voices. Musanu ukuphatheka kabi mabeza kithi, musanu ukuphatheka kabi mabeza ku premier, musanu
Okay, Deborah, I think just before we start the intense discussion, a quick check-up. I think earlier on I moved another one. I actually adopted it also from a political song, but I've made it an economical emancipation song. So, iti ayavuma amakhosikazi ayongena e-stock exchange. Asengenile ngithi parliament. Mama khosikazi ayavuma makhosikazi ayavuma makhosikazi ayongena stock exchange ayavuma makhosikazi ayavuma makhosikazi ayavuma makhosikazi stock exchange makhosikazi ayavuma makhosikazi ayavuma makhosikazi ayongena stock exchange ayavuma vumani ayavuma makhosikazi ayavuma makhosikazi ayongena stock exchange. Ngiyabonga. I think as they indicated, igama lami nguNgulindiwe Nomvula Dladla Kamkhonza. I'm also a woman who practices in business, both in South Africa, in Africa, and in Asia. I am involved in the chemical energy storage. I am equally involved in what you call, we do chemicals for your paints, your building, and so forth. And I'm going to actually call my esteemed panelists, and we're going to discuss about opportunities in energy, especially now that we are challenged as a country, and equally, especially at this moment in time, when the nature and the epoch of the energy industry is changing, and is changing fast, because we have to go green, and the traditional energy sector will not be what it looks like today, or in the next 5 years as it looks like today. So I'm gonna call the three ladies, I think, and a gentleman, if I'm not mistaken, bear with me. I've had so many information and changes in just an hour, so I'm a little bit conflicted. So ngizozama ukuhamba through WhatsApp in the program. And the ladies, please also, I don't have your profiles. I would love to celebrate you properly. I don't have them. I have names and bits and pieces of information. So I would like to call on stage Mbele, who's a senior manager at the Retail Center of Excellence at ESCOM. Can we give her a round of applause? This number plate, sicela ukuthi ngempela isincede, NUR 64959. NUR 64959, silver gray legend 50. NUR 64959. Please assist us, you are blocking the way. NUR 64959. Our next panelist is Mr. Nisa, I believe he's from TIC, is he around? And our third panelist, I think it's just the three of them with me. Our third panelist, Tembelihle Ndlovu from EDTIA. Tembelihle, is Tembelihle around? For the guys who are doing logistics, oh, there we go. Thank you very much. Don't you have an extra one? The fourth one. Can I have it? As we wait for my own speaker so I can sit down as well, I think I just would like to introduce the theme of this conversation, and thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. The theme is the role of women in resolving current energy challenges through infrastructure development. Bearing in mind that also at the back of what we're doing, we're looking at the brick blocks. So the questions and the engagements here. Thank you.